Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat.
We are addicted to food, high levels of sugar, high levels of salt.
You just get hooked on this trash fuel that you start putting in your body.
Very happy squirrel goes from tree to tree gathering nuts. I can't stop. What's going on? Why? Because Frank the chemist has covered this nut with the sweetest, most addictive chemical that it could possibly find, and it's going crazy. 70% of cancer is caused by food, and the number one ingredient is sugar. Some studies have suggested that sugar is as addictive as cocaine.
It is so much easier to maintain a happy, healthy, clear, energetic state of mind when you have a healthy gut.
Have we been lied to our entire life? Like, is breakfast not the most important meal of the day?
How does an office athlete get their food? How does a hunter-gatherer get their food? And what are the two things that are missing?
Movement and scarcity.
Oh, nice.
What's good? What do I get? I have no idea, because there's so many choices. They actually become overwhelmed. A lot of times they pick something and then they have like mini buyer's remorse. Like, oh, I should have chose something different.
Today's abundance of consumer options can steal our decision making and even wear away our well-being.
Right now, I'm not eating clean. It's this phase I'm going through. I'm cool with it. It's all good. It's going to end here in a couple days.
Unless you die. No, I'm joking.
Oh, God.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Figure out your big why. Why are you doing this? And that's going to propel you forward and clarify a whole bunch of things when you get confused.
Welcome to the Good Life.
What is up, everybody? We are back. Guys, we're going to get started and jump right in. This is the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I got Stu in the building with us. Say what's up, Stu.
What's up, y'all?
Kabi is also back with us for the first time on LinkedIn. So say what's up, Kabi.
What up, though?
He's here, finally. We made it. And obviously, I'm Chris. Guys, we're back another week diving into how to design your life with extraordinary health, wealth, and mindset. Again, find us everywhere you listen and watch to your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. We're everywhere. Go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like, write a comment, review it, listen to it, share it, because this is awesome. And we got another awesome one for you today. It's kind of our health week, I guess you could say. I don't know if it's a health week. It's always about health. But Kabi's going to take it over for today and dive in to some important stuff. So let's get rolling.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat. You're in for a treat. It's Wednesday. We're recording. You may see this on Monday. If that's the case, you know that you can join us live on LinkedIn on Wednesdays and come check us out. Check out the bottom of the screen there. We're here. We're ready to go. We're talking about more health-related things today. As you know, we cover everything from health, wealth, happiness, mindset. We touch it all. The components of what we believe is the good life today is the health component. And what's been on my mind, I was up late. I couldn't. That's a lie. I wasn't up late. I got a great night's sleep. But something that's been on my mind recently as I see a couple things pop up in health news. It seems like we're always talking about cancer. Seems like we're always talking about diabetes. Cancer is something that's torn up families. Every time I hear, I'd never know what to say or what to do. It seems like we've been fighting it forever. I don't know if we've made much progress. According to the numbers, we really haven't made progress at all. In fact, it appears we're like backtracking. And not just that, things like Alzheimer's, heart disease. These are the things that are taking loved ones away from us, making life difficult. And these things do actually keep me up at night because I feel like with everything we have, technology and all this money and effort going forth, we should be making a dent in this stuff, but it doesn't appear like we are. And I'm curious why that is. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And the question I'll start off with, guys, and feel free to jump in here with the yay or nay, is has our go ahead.
Client stories.
Oh, you're right.
That was the question he was going to ask.
That was the I knew it was the question.
What the client stories were.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out, Stu. I will pay you later. All right. So, let's start off the top, client stories, and then we'll go and proceed from there. Client stories. Let's go start with you first, Chris, and then we'll go to Stu and I'll jump in.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, the reason why we're doing this, I just want all the listeners to know, because we're all coaches, because we get a chance to talk to clients individually, one-on-one throughout the week, even before we jump on the podcast, we wanted a lot of the information that we're talking to them about. We know that it can benefit all of you, all of the listeners. So we just wanted to share some of those things with you. Myself on the finance side, being a financial coach and going in and having comments or having conversations with people every single week, you start to see similar patterns over time. And so figured it'd be good to be able to share with you. This week, I've had some solid conversations with people. And it's funny because right before this on the pregame, Stu, you had talked a little bit about shame and guilt. You were talking about it from another side, from another perspective. But that's a huge factor when we're dealing with our money. And it's something that I've seen with our clients over the past week and obviously before then. But when it comes to our spending habits, or some people think they have a shopping problem or a spending problem, there's so much shame and guilt attached to how they're using their money. And we have to rid people of that. And that's one of my missions, is to get people to understand that there shouldn't be shame and guilt attached to how you use your money. We just have to learn how to get better with it. And so one of the things that I've coached a lot of people through is to just eliminate the negative talk around your money. Eliminate the self-defeating talk of like, oh, I'm not good at this, or I don't know how to budget, or I'll never find the right investment, or I'm not good in the stock market. All the self-defeating talk around our money is never helpful for getting us to where we have to go. So we really have to make sure we're watching our language around money, and that was the common theme that kind of came up in a few of my client sessions this week, was just changing how we think about things, changing the words around how we're using or changing the words around our money language. And I think that's important for everybody.
That's awesome, man. I think the shame and guilt can get in the way of so many things. Just trying to make any type of improvements over them, you just get in your own way with that type of stuff. The theme of the week for me has been more of a organizational piece. For a couple of I guess the executive clients I had some meetings where I set up spreadsheets for them. I set up different organizational tools. And this whole thing has really been on my mind more so as I have this event at the end of the month for the workshop on Organization 101 for anybody who's in remote work or just running their own show. And it really is amazing how just, you take what somebody's dealing with when all of that stress and pressure, being in a leadership position, it's just so hard sometimes to actually take a step back and look at how you're organizing your processes, because you're too busy fighting fires. And in construction, that's what we do all the time. So it was nice to be able to provide these guys with a deliverable on how they can organize some of the things and have a visual in front of them that helps communicate with the team. So that was a big win for the week, was helping a couple of people just make sense of all the noise that they got going on in the world.
Huge, big deal. You're on mute. Could be you're on mute.
I'm on mute, so I'm gonna come off of mute. Appreciate you all sharing. That's what I said before I was realized I was on mute. From my side of things here, a few things I could pick from, but the one I think to highlight this week is how consistency affects those around us. And I think oftentimes, clients starting out, whether they're high-level execs who don't have time, whether they are individuals who've been fairly consistent with their health, but they're looking to elevate to a new level, or they've hit a plateau and need somebody to come in and help them take it to the next level, is this conversation I have, or this kind of story I get like much later down the line, which is, man, I see so-and-so who's important to me now asking me questions, or I see so-and-so who at first was giving me a little resistance as to like, why are you doing all these weird things? Now coming to me and saying, hey, listen, I'm having this issue. Can you help me out? I see mom now starting to juice and clean up her diet. I see my sister asking me, hey, listen, what do I need to do? I'm actually struggling with this. I see my brother coming by and saying, hey, I want to lose weight. How did you do that? I see my uncle saying, hey, listen, my blood pressure and cholesterol and stuff is not looking too good. I noticed that you did this. What did you do? Right. So guys, I want to encourage you, whether you work with me or not, if you're on your journey, play your game. Stay consistent in what you're doing. You know why you started. You're going to get resistance at first from individuals who don't know, they're not there yet. Or they're looking for somebody to pull down with them to wallow where they are. Doesn't mean they're lower than anybody. It just means they're just not there yet, quite yet. Right. And that consistency that you're displaying, you don't know who it's impacting or what life it's improving. You don't know who's watching. Right. When you feel like, oh man, I'm getting pulled back into things I used to do, just know that those people are people that you're inspiring by making different decisions, and going back to do those things with them is not going to help you, and it's certainly not going to help them. It might feel great, like you're back, you're part of the group now, you're back, a part of the fold now. But consistently making those decisions and making those tough decisions that you know to make, you don't know how that's going to help those same people later down the line. I see it all the time. And in the moment, it's really difficult to do, but in the long run, it makes you could literally be saving someone who loves life. So that's my client story, and without being too specific, it's something that comes up over and over and over again. But consistency in the lifestyle decisions that you've made. It doesn't mean you have to be a saint. I'm not talking about being a saint. I'm talking about some of the little things that we overlook. So that's our client stories for today. And like I said, today we're talking about, has our environment developed to a level that our inner engineering cannot handle? Right. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So imagine a squirrel. Let's call the squirrel Toby the squirrel. So Toby the squirrel, perfectly good-looking squirrel, about average height, average build, very happy squirrel. Goes from tree to tree gathering nuts. And Toby the squirrel, might eat 4 or 5 nuts. And they're perfectly full. Store the rest for another day.
He
might.
Oh.
That's Toby the squirrel. We don't know it quite yet. So, and then Frank the chemist comes by and takes Toby's the squirrel's nuts, and covers them with highly addictive sweet chemical. All right. And Toby the squirrel goes back and eats the nut and says, man, my goodness, this is good. 1 nut, 2 nut, 3 nut, 4, 5 nut, 6.
I'm dying over here.
So whereas Toby the squirrel would typically eat like 5 nuts, now Toby the squirrel is eating like 10, 15 nuts at a time, and it's wondering, I can't stop. What's going on? Why? Because Frank the chemist has covered his nut with the sweetest, most addictive chemical that it could possibly find, and it's going crazy. Right. Guys, I tell this story not to crack you up, because this is kind of what's happening in our society right now. Can you see what is going on? Our food system is completely it's at a point right now where I feel like we don't stand a chance. Now, I want to pause here and for multiple reasons here and say, yay or nay, do you see the correlation between Toby the squirrel story and what's happening? And can you speak on it from maybe personal experience or something you've noticed?
Yay. I do think this is a reflection of what's going on in our society, because right now I'm actually, we all go through seasons, right? So my personal experience on this is, every time I go back into a season of just being super relaxed with what I eat, you just get hooked on this trash fuel that you start putting in your body. Hooked on it, and somebody knows who gave
What is that? Pringles?
This is knockoff Pringles, the
Knockoff
Good
Pringles.
Crisp. And
Good. It literally says
it
good.
It says no guilt. I don't know if that's really working for me though.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But speaking of no guilt, though, I mean, that's a huge marketing thing, by the way. But sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, and literally, it's funny how we're talking about intentions of a food industry or someone that's going to make money on certain types of products, and they advertise no guilt. It is pretty interesting. So why would you feel the need to put that out there? If it wasn't this thing that was literally just poisoning us. Anyways, I'm not going to go on that. I'm not going to spoil everything you got going on later. But I would say this is a big yay. This is exactly what's happening. You make it taste so good, people can justify eating it.
Yep. I'm right there with you. This is a yay for me also. I see the correlation between Toby and his nuts. And no, for real. I see the correlation though, but because honestly, we've talked about it before on the show. Right? The food industry has completely kind of warped what we know as good food, or like what's supposed to be going into our bodies. And unfortunately, that's why we are addicted to food. High levels of sugar, high levels of salt, right? The things that we just that our bodies keep coming back to craving more of, all around us, found in so many different things, specifically sugar, right? And I think you might talk about that later on the show, but like sugar is one of those things that is in so much of the food that we find on grocery store shelves, fast food, all of that type of stuff. And what it's causing, in your analogy and in your story, is it's causing people to be addicted to it. Like you keep going back to it because it tastes good, but it's not doing the right things for our body. So I can definitely see the correlation. I don't know who is the chemist, so to speak, or the scientist, or I don't know who that person or those people are in this example, but somebody is toying with our food. And I think that's an issue. So
look out, Toby.
Look out, Toby. Toby, no, don't do that. That's 5 to 10. Anyway, but I mean, that's a really interesting point you bring up, Chris, because that chemist could be a number of different people. It could be the largest lobbying group in the United States of America, the agricultural lobbying group. It could be all the companies that take that food and then process it even more into something that our bodies, our inner engineering can't handle. It could be so many different aspects. It could be the restaurants that then take it even more and arrange it into different things for us. So, I mean, I think it could be so many things. Moving on to our next point here, because I know we're going to have a lot to say on all of these different things. We'll make sure we get through them, is the hunter story, right? If you've ever read a history book, at some point in time, it mentions that at one point in time, we were hunter-gatherers. Now, imagine the life of a hunter-gatherer and the life that we live now as, let me say, office athletes, right? What is missing in how an office athlete gets their food versus how a hunter-gatherer gets his food? And I'm not even going to tell the story because I feel like you guys can go ahead and fill us in. But what do you miss? And I'm looking for two specific things. What is missing in those two pathways? How does an office athlete get their food? How does a hunter-gatherer get their food? And what are the two things that are missing? Anybody that wants to take this?
Movement and scarcity.
Oh, nice.
Movement was definitely going to be one of mine, just because hunter-gatherers, right? You have to go hunt in order to get to your food, right? It doesn't just come to you. The office athlete, it literally just comes to you. Like for some people in their office, they literally just have to order food and it'll come to them. The movement part is the part that I was thinking about. I don't know the second thing that's missing. Probably maybe the all natural part of it, right? The environmental part. Your hunter-gatherer would go out and kill a bison, bring it back and skin the bison and cut it up and store some of the meat and cook some of it, and it's just like the freshest piece. They're going to pick up vegetables or whatever the case is, but there's no processing, there's no preservatives, there's no it's from the wild, it's from the nature. So I'm sure that's not how most people are eating, because even if you had to, you'd probably go to the grocery store, or you'd probably go to the, I don't know, wherever you get your food from. So movement, and then something dealing with like the natural part of the food.
I think those are both fantastic answers, and I'll go ahead and meld them because I think they're both true. Movement for sure. Actually having to work for your food, actually being connected to the food, and maybe not necessarily work as in go out and hunt, but any sort of work whatsoever, right? Energy being expended to go ahead and get that food. By the time the food gets to you, you have greater appreciation for the food. You've expended energy, physical, mental, spiritual energy, and now you're ready to replenish. I think that's totally missing. Chris, I appreciate the natural aspect of it. And not only the natural aspect of it, Stu, I think you hit more so what I was thinking, which is scarcity. And it'll take us into kind of our next story bit here. Scarcity. There's scarcity, especially, let's stick to the United States here. If you're listening outside of the United States, we love you. This is probably true for you as well. But, you know, I know America the best in terms of this. But no scarcity. Whole Foods got it all. All right. Walmart got it all. And we don't work for it in the sense that a hunter-gatherer used to, right? And you know, our reference is article here that we'll pull up and see if we can get it up here for you guys to take a look at. But it's a American Psychological Association article that says
I got you.
consumerism, too many choices, too many choices. And
I'm gonna pull that.
today's, and I'll read just a little tab right there, and you guys can look it up and read for yourself as well. We'll just look at the subtab. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Says what? Today's abundance of consumer options can steal our decision making and even wear away our well-being. But there are solutions. And we're going to focus on a solution that I don't think they hit on, that I think is the more important solution, which is lifestyle design. All right. And we're going to go into that a little bit into detail. But you ever heard, guys, and we can take that down. You guys ever heard, you know, of this going into a store and seeing so many choices that you actually become overwhelmed?
I used to work at the Cheesecake Factory. Happens all the time. All the time. All the time.
What specifically?
Specifically, so if anyone's ever been to the Cheesecake Factory, you know it's 300 something things on the menu. And when people would sit down to eat or go to eat, they would be so confused, especially if they're hungry. They would be like, what's good? What do I get? I have no idea, because there's so many choices. They actually become overwhelmed. A lot of times they pick something and then they have like mini buyer's remorse, like, oh, I should have chose something different. And they're all like freaked out about it. Like they can't come back and get it. But yeah, that would happen all the time.
I love that, man. So being overwhelmed as to what to choose. So we now have a situation where so many individuals, so much of the conversation around nutrition is like, what do I pick? What do I pick? What do I eat? What do I eat? And we'll touch on that a little bit later. And then Stu, to your point, so much of it then coming down to scarcity. See, when we have 2, 3, 4, 5 options based on where we live, what's in season, what's available to us, it's a lot easier for an individual to make the correct decision. They're picking from like 5 options rather than picking from like 500 options that's available for them by click of the button. And not only, and we can go from the biological route in terms of they don't actually develop gut microbiome that's optimal for intaking that food. Number one. Number two, they don't develop the sort of almost appreciation for the food as to what it takes to get it. They don't develop, they get overwhelmed and can quickly make the wrong decision that's not good for them or for their background. So that scarcity aspect actually in a lot of ways has protected us. But we've developed this technology of getting so many choices to us at so many times. And I want you guys to kind of riff on that a little bit. Like, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? I mean, what are the positives? What are the pros and what are the cons?
Well, just real quick, I'm going to share. Rena said too many options makes her indecisive. So she's just one of the people out there that, again, having too many options, it can be a problem, can be an issue. So thank you for sharing that, Rena. We appreciate it. The first, and Stu, did you have anything right away? Because my mind went to slightly different place, but on the same topic. Like, how would our country fare when we go through this food shortage, when it's not abundance, when it does become scarce? Like, what's that transition like? That's the first place that my mind went. But Stu, what are your thoughts on it?
So I think the cons of this saturation in options. Well, first of all, let me make a comparison. Back in the primal times, you have non-processed meat, or you have fruits and vegetables, nuts, like things from the earth, right? So not only was there less of this saturation of options, the only options you had were unprocessed foods made from nature, not from man. So that's a huge con for where we're at now. I think the second con to having this saturation is this is kind of a twofold piece. The first one is marketing no longer becomes about education, informative, and just helping you get the right fuel source into your body. It becomes flashy. What's gonna attract you to the product? Is it gonna be the no guilt good crisps, or what exactly is gonna bring you in? And the problem is it's no longer about the content of the food at that point. It's about the brand, the thing that you don't actually consume. Yeah, exactly. So for me, I think that's a giant con, because we're getting away from the fact that food is supposed to be a fuel source, not a pleasure item. And the final piece I have on this has evaded me. It's gone. It's left. It'll come back hopefully in the next 30 seconds. So Chris,
I got you. So also the cons, right? Like the cons of this side, the overindulgence, right? And this is kind of summing up what you guys are talking about, but the overindulgence of the American society, how we just have things at our fingertips and we don't understand what it takes to actually get that. And you guys know, I talk about this, how a lot of this stuff ties into all the stuff that we talk about, whether it's the financial side and the economy and where things are moving. If we go the other direction, right, and all of a sudden we're not living in the same amount of abundance, or it does turn a bit more scarce for our food. I mean, real time right now, where there's a baby formula, right, shortage. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to any of that. Somebody brought that to my attention. What if that turned to food, and from us being so inundated with so many options, how do then we handle that as a population, as a society, where now we might not have the options? What do we get back to? Do people really know the foundation of how they are supposed to eat, or what to eat, or how to even grow their own food, get their own food? Like, there's so many questions, I think, on the other side of this thing, when it switches, because it will in the future. I think that's where my thoughts go immediately.
I did find my last point. So I think one of the biggest problems with the saturation piece is there's so many different types of foods that you could find and eat that you don't get enough repetition with certain types of foods to figure out, is this working for me or is it not? It's tough to pinpoint what's making me gain this weight or what's making me have acne when you have such a wide variety of things that you're sampling from. You cannot really narrow down what's not making your body function properly. And I think to go another level in that, one thing that's been really interesting about doing the juice feast and just cleaning up my diet, not so much recently, but most of the time, is you begin to develop a sense of, man, my body feels a certain way. It's telling me something. I need a certain food to take care of this. For me personally, dehydration, headaches, lack of energy, I go to fruit now. And I don't know if many people get the opportunity to do that if they haven't, if they're stuck in just walking into the saturation of, some grocery store or whatever, because maybe they're just going for a dopamine hit. Maybe that's what they've been trained to do.
Big.
I'll do it for that. Speaking of that beautiful transition there, I think Stu, you hit on something there at the end that I don't want to pick up from, which is that dopamine hit, right? And some of the most addictive substances on earth, we don't demonize, right? We demonize, the obvious ones, cocaine, heroin, et cetera, et cetera. But there are substances that we all have in our homes that are just as addictive and just as destructive, if not more. But because perhaps it takes place, it's a slower effect, and it's not an effect that is as repulsive or has been marketed as repulsive. We treat it differently, and I want to reference maybe the addictioncenter.com. How do people develop sugar addiction? I want to reference that piece. If you want to be able to pull it up,
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
that'd be dope. And there was one more, but I'll read that as that comes up here. Listen, so if we go up here, why do people develop a sugar addiction, right? Remember, just read this little clip right here. Sugar addiction can create a short-term high and a spark of energy in the body. Some studies have suggested that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. People often enjoy the dopamine release that sugar brings. And then, but due to its addictive nature of sugar, long-term health effects like obesity and diabetes, which there are far more than just those two, by the way, are a risk of sugar and overindulgence. And you might say overindulgence, well, that's not that much. But guys, overindulgence of sugar is not that difficult to reach. Similar to other compulsions or behavior addictions, sugar addiction is a special risk for people with low moods, anxiety, and stress. You guys know anybody that has stress in their life? No? You know anybody that has stress in their life? Okay,
Nobody.
got it. Got it.
Nah.
Nobody at all, right?
Nah,
So I want to relate it to some of our most chronic problems, such as cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease. All of this stuff is related, has been directly linked, guys, not just kind of partially linked, but directly linked. And I want to go back to the American Psychological Association here for more needed to treat diabetes. Let's just cover just that one. And you could really pick any of these chronic issues, right? 29 million Americans are now living with diabetes. Another 86 million have pre-diabetes. As the epidemic, right, has grown, so has awareness of the social cycle issues. What am I saying? Issues that accompanies the disease. Go ahead and read deeper into that. But let me bring up another point here. When you look at the data, guys, what's really shocking and really heart-wrenching is it has gotten significantly worse. Let's just look at just type 2 diabetes by itself, like significantly worse. Whereas a young, healthy male, when being, and this is something you can get directly from Dr. Wheel, I believe, Wheel or Whale, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Dr. Andrew Wheel, I believe. You can look him up, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, just Google him. He speaks on this specifically where he states that whereas a young man, a healthy young man in the mid ages, if admitted to a hospital, they would not suspect any sort of heart issues because that's just not what happened back in like the 80s, for example. Now you have to suspect those sort of issues because that's the direction we're moving in. Whereas diabetes is moving in a direction where it's already an epidemic, right? And as we're moving in a direction where this is becoming more and more common in the face of us having more and more quote unquote better technology and better healthcare. So what's happening, right? And this can be directly linked, and we're only focusing on one right now. It can be directly linked to our consumption of sugar. And what's mind blowing on top of that is when I talk about juicing, that's the number one thing people correlate with is that's too much sugar. But they don't correlate all the other forms of sugar. And I'm not just talking about adding white sugar to something, but all the other forms of sugar that's processed and given to us in so many different ways. All right. Soft drinks alone, just that alone, if they're shown the level of sugar that's putting out or that's getting into our body, it's alarming. All right. So why do we continue to have this stuff marketed on TV if it's one as addictive as cocaine, studies have shown, is as destructive as it is, all right? But yet we're totally fine to put it on TV because why? Why do you guys think that is?
Follow the money. Follow the money. The industry is huge. Coca-Cola is not Coca-Cola, right? It's not in Warren Buffett's portfolio just because, right? Like they're going to be around. They're going to be around. They have big dollars. They can put it in front of us. Kids can, they can get kids hooked on it. It's acceptable. It's acceptable. We've touched on a lot of these different things on the show, but like what's acceptable in society, just because it's acceptable doesn't mean it's good for you. They've made alcohol acceptable. Back in the day, they promoted cigarettes. Camel, I think the mom was smoking cigarettes back in the day. Like whatever's acceptable to society, and where there's money, big tobacco, big, the food industry, they're going to push their agenda. And if people aren't careful of being aware of what's happening, they'll fall into it. So it's just acceptable. That's all. Soda is acceptable. Fast food is acceptable. All these things we've accepted as a society that like that's not as bad as promoting heroin or cocaine or some other drug that we would say is a hardcore drug. Just become acceptable.
I think the acceptable piece and the follow the money are huge. So I'll just kind of approach it from some different angles. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, Chris. I think from the acceptable side, like it's acceptable to be unhealthy, and that just it's a very interesting concept. And
you gotta unpack that, man. You just said
yeah,
something.
I'm trying. Yeah, so I guess it's such an interesting concept. Like most people that you interact with, at least in general society, are not the healthiest they could be. I mean, theoretically, none of us are the healthiest we could be. But right now, it's acceptable to, past a certain age, to just talk to other people about all of your health issues as if we're just venting. But there's not really problem solving around it. So it's an inherently accepted place to be after a certain point in life. I think that certain point in life is very interesting because when does that even get drawn? I don't know. Like, is there an age of which we're supposed to break down all of our lifelong habits and then start becoming healthy because we're having all of these symptoms come up and these doctor's visits and the hospital trips? So speaking of all that, the hospital trips, it'll segue into the whole follow your money piece. Both the food industry and pharmaceutical companies and hospitals all profit from people being unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the marketing and conversations around not just health, but food as well, and then treatments to bad health, it all revolves around ways to make money. You talk about it all the time, could be treating the symptoms. When in reality, as you're suggesting here, based on data, based on science, people, that at the end of the day, the causes are not what we're being told through traditional media and marketing and the government. Like, the causes of your illnesses are what you're consuming. So I think the whole thing is just this giant game of smoke and mirrors where, like Chris said, just follow the money. They're not in it for you to be healthy. They're in it for them to make money. And it's a very tough system to break down because that entire system consists of a massive hierarchy of people and a network that will be shut down if this truth ever gets out. So who wants to really pull the plug on a bunch of people having a job? It's a tough situation to get out of.
It is a tough situation, but I think one of the things that can really help is proper education as to what's happening, and hopefully then people can make better decisions for themselves and their families. And part of that education is recognizing that drugs is not just the illegal drugs that we recognize as a society. It's actually, bigger than that. It's the drugs that are fed to our kids. It's the drugs that are fed to us. It's the drugs that we've all become hooked on. White sugar, salt, flour, all of these things, unhealthy fats. And these are the things that are causing the most chronic conditions in our society. And this is a fact. This is not my opinion. These are, whether you are a big science person, these are scientific facts. Whether you're a logical person, these are logical facts. Whether you're an observant individual, these are facts you can observe in society. And it's unfortunate because these things can be very much linked to the things that cause us so much headache. And on top of that, not just those drugs being fed, but then the drugs that are then forced onto us as a society to cure those issues by the pharmaceutical companies, right? There's so many drugs out there that's supposed to treat type 2 diabetes, that's supposed to treat Alzheimer's, that's supposed to treat heart disease and treat all these different things that were caused by other drugs that are sold to us. So at what point do we stop? And at what point do we say, hey, listen, maybe we should approach this in a slightly different way. Maybe there's another option. So let's take a look at that. One of the things, Dr. Mark Hyman highlighted this, and I want to reference it a little bit. And it says that 70% of cancer is caused by food. 70% of cancer is caused by food, and the number one ingredient is sugar. And not just cancer, we're also looking at chronic conditions like Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease. All of that is caused by food, guys. Food, right? So I always say this, guys, even from the aesthetic perspective, I say 80% bodies are made in the gym. 80% are made in the kitchen. 80% of the equation is food. 80%.
Say that
right?
again, because I don't think people understand that. Could be the amount of people that I've talked to that believe it's more about the gym. Like, forget all the eating. Like, I'm just gonna go work out.
So let me say this. Let me say this very clearly so it's understood. If you take Pareto's principle, 80-20 rule, whether you're talking about aesthetics, whether you're talking about health, internal health, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, 80%, the 80% of the variable is what we put into our mouths, is what we eat, what we drink, right? And 20% is our physical activity. So let's look back at this study by, of course, the World Health Organization. Shout out. We'll leave that right there. And we say prevention through healthy dietary habits. So it reads, a large body of literature indicates that as much as 30% of all cancers cases is linked to poor dietary habits and therefore preventable. The portion reaches 70% for cancers of the gastrointestinal tract. Maintaining a healthy weight throughout the life may be one of the most important ways to protect against cancer. Now, of course, I have my issues with this, right? First and foremost, 70%, we could find other studies that say that 30% is a lot higher than that. That 70% is even much, much higher than that, especially when we're talking about the gut, obviously. And then it immediately goes maintaining a healthy weight.
Missed it. They were doing okay.
They were doing okay. Okay. It immediately goes to maintaining a healthy weight. Guys, there's so many ways to maintain a healthy weight, and not all of that is going to get you the results that we're talking about. There's so many ways to maintain a healthy weight. Weight is a tertiary indicator of health, meaning it's 3 degrees removed from the source, right? So it's not getting this hyper focused on weight is not the solution. Getting hyper focused on weight is not the solution. We have to focus on lifestyle. And I want to reference this other article here, National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnical Information, Pharmaceutical Research. Cancer is a preventable disease that requires major lifestyle changes. We can stop right there. Cancer is a preventable lifestyle, is a preventable disease that requires major lifestyle changes. But guys, what if I told you that may not be as major as you think it is? What if it's just consistently making the little decisions over and over and over and over again, just like we've consistently made the little decisions that's gotten us as a society here? All right. So this is incredibly important, man. And this is the type of stuff that influences what I call the CTM method. And specifically, the core of that CTM method is the gut, starting with the gut, go into the breath, and then go into movement. The core of that is starting with the gut, because if you've ever tried to move or work out rigorous activity without taking care of your nutrition, your gut, you're in for a rude awakening. You're in to cause you a lot of issues, even fatal. If you go out and try to take care of your breath without taking care of your gut, very inefficient. It's like riding a car with terrible wheels, or it doesn't work as well as it could. So, I think this stuff is so important that we bring out here, guys. And my questions to you guys is like, when it comes to, and let me put this out here real quick. Diet is defined as the kinds of foods that a person, animal, or community habitually eats. So that's what most of these conversations around nutrition is about. What should you eat? Right? What should you eat? And my question to you guys is, is that the right question to ask? If not, what should we be asking? And if it is, why? Is that the right question to ask? All of these diets, and you can name them and go into them if you like, are asking what they're really talking about. What should you be eating? We already talked about the options, various options available to us. We already talked about how addictive they can be. We already talked, but what should you be eating? What should you be eating? Is that the right question to ask? And if not, what should we potentially shift our attention to?
What should you be eating sounds like a great question to ask. Yeah, I feel like I'm like walking into a trap, but I'm gonna
because it's the common question, Stu, right? Like that's why, like it makes sense to us, I think, because it's the common question, because it's the number one thing people, when we start this health conversation, they start talking about, oh, keto this, or oh, vegan this, or right, oh, I don't eat meat, or oh, this is organic, or like it's always about like, what should I be putting in? But I think to answer the question, this might get kind of deep on it, but like I think the question maybe is why are we eating? Like what's the purpose for eating? Whoever taught us that side, like we might think something, I don't know the answers, right? It might be, some people might say it's to feel full. Some people might say it's to get nutrition. I don't know, but I think that is a better question. Like, why do you eat? Like, I think if we've gotten so far away from the energy part of things, which is the reason why we eat, right? It's for the energy, for the nourishment of our body, but then also to have energy. So it's like, good fuel that comes in. I think that's a better question to ask. And I don't know that everyone would have the same answer, but I think that is the answer, is like, we're eating so that we can have nourishment and have energy to go off and live the life that we want. Could be, what's your take on that?
I appreciate you both. Stu, thank you for taking the bait. And then and then and then Chris, I appreciate you coming right behind with, I think the what might be is an important question to ask. It is an important question to ask. I'm not saying we should ignore it, but I would argue that it might be the least important question to ask out of the questions we could ask. And the why, in my opinion, is more important than the what. Because the why, just like you would say, hey, when you start a goal, when you start doing something, have your why secure. Figure out your big why. Why are you doing this? And that's going to propel you forward and clarify a whole bunch of things when you get confused. Why are you doing that? Oh, okay. So if I'm doing that because of this, if I'm eating because of energy, then I should make this decision. If I'm eating because of this, then I should go down this route. That makes sense. If we start asking the what without knowing the why, we get confused. And then we have so many options to pick from, and then we get even more confused. And then you know what decision we go with? Oh, we go with the route that tastes good. We go with the addictive route. And these companies spend so much money figuring out which route that is that they hijack our senses. They hijack us, our smell, our taste, our eyes, hijack all that stuff. So the decision you make based on the what, I don't care, even if you know what you should be eating, that addictiveness, that addictive thing takes over, right? It takes over so that even when you know, you're still going to reach for that, that food that tastes good, that, doesn't make you feel as guilty because the packaging says so. By the way, I'm guilty of this as well. I'm not coming here to preach. I'm coming here to share my experience. Right? I'm coming here to share my experience. This is true. Right? And guys, I'll say this as well. Not only is the why more important than the what, I would say the how you eat is also more important than the what you eat. The how you eat. And even more important, I would say that the when you eat might even be more important than all those, right? Because what we're looking at here when we talk about diabetes, when we talk about weight gain, when we talk about all these different issues, we're really in a lot of ways narrowing it down to our insulin spikes, right? When we put stuff in and our body starts to work on it, our chemical makeup changes. If you've ever been on a solid food vacation juice feast, you know this. Whether you put in fried foods, could be fried meat, it could be fried plants. Whether you put in fried foods at 11 p.m. versus 11 a.m., right? Whether you put in the perfect filet mignon at midnight versus at noon, it still makes a difference. It's still the what is still the same. But when you put it in, it still makes a difference. Would you guys agree? And it might even make more of a difference. Right? So that's where we get confused. So, all of these diet, whether you're keto, Mediterranean, vegan, carnivore, all of that stuff focuses on the what. I'm asking people to shift a little bit and focus not just on the what, and in fact, focus maybe a little less on the what, because then you're battling willpower, right? You're battling willpower, and focus on the why and the when. And it's going to help you overcome that. Because once you put that little piece of sugar in your mouth, guess what? Within a short period of time, guess what you crave?
More sugar.
More sugar, more salt, more of it. You turn into Toby. You turn into Toby the squirrel. That's what we're battling, guys. So, some people will say, well, what is the answer? Give me the answer. Give me the answer. What do I do? What do I do? Guys, we could dive into this for a little bit longer. So let me give you a takeaway here, and we'll maybe dive into our takeaways a little bit to kind of bring the show to a close here and keep it real simple. Guys, I explained it this way. The opposite of day is night. The opposite of eating is not eating. I'm not encouraging people to go starve themselves. However, whether we're looking at our hunter-gatherer days, whether we're looking at, we naturally should be fasting. Whether we look at religion, whether we look at whatever we look at, we naturally should be fasting. We should have periods of time where we're not stuffing ourselves, periods of time where our body has time to deal with the stuff that's already in there, periods of time where our body gets, and guess what? Our body loves it. There's now, I mean, we've been doing this for thousands of years, by the way, naturally and also intentionally. We've been doing this, but now there's tons of research out there that supports the efficacy, the value, what word am I looking for here? But
Important.
the importance of fasting. And I'm not just talking about any fasting here. There's a way to go about this. One way that everybody has known me for a while now is a solid food vacation juice feast for a deep clean. You don't necessarily have to do that if you're not ready for it, right? A lot of people know about intermittent fasting, but I think there's a way to do intermittent fasting that's far more effective. So let me give you an example. For today, for example, right? I started out on hydrating. I'm going lemon water early in the morning. I'm taking some herbs for gut microbiome, right? I take my herbs, I go for a little while, a couple hours, I feel energized, I feel good. I might take here, today, for example, specifically, I took Unimate, which is a yerba mate concentrate here. Had me feeling fantastic. I fast for a couple hours. My body gets a period of time to clean itself, gets a period of time to deal with everything that's in there. I'm hydrating, I'm drinking water, I'm going for a period of time. Now, when I break my fast, and that's really what break fast is. Breakfast is important. It is the most important meal, but it doesn't mean the meal that you eat in the morning that's sugary with a lot of milk. That's not what breakfast is. Breakfast is just the meal first meal you eat once you break your fast. That's what makes it the most important. And when I do that, I make sure that I get in something that's going to give me the nutrients that I need. So what do I do with that? I make sure I get in something green drink for me. It might be a green juice. It might be green smoothie. It might be green shake. I have here an easy piece that I use, a PM green shake that I use. I pop it in my little shaker. I shake it up. I take my green drink. I know I'm getting a lot of different things in there that I need. And we're not going to dive too much into the details. But you could have some fruit. You could have some watermelon. You could have some fruit, something that's accessible to you, right? Before I do that, I'm taking a balance to give me some additional fiber, to give me some additional things in there to control my insulin spike. After that, I might have another meal, a bigger meal later on. And before that, I take another balance in there and I'm controlling that spike again. Guys, I'm getting everything I need. My insulin level is steady throughout and I feel fantastic throughout. I'm getting everything I need. Like, we have this fear of like, oh my gosh, what if I don't get this? I don't get that. That's not really that. That's like 20% of what we should be worried about. 80% of what we should be worried about is I'm getting way too much of things that I don't need. That's what we should really be worried about, right? To get what you need is really not that hard at all. I just showed you how I do it. There's tons of ways for you to do it. You don't have to do it how I do it. You could do it your way. I could name off 5-10 different ways that you could do it based on where you are. And the last thing I'll leave you guys with is what you have to really remember is that nutrition is a call and response between us, the mind, body, spirit complex, our mind, our body, our spirit, this entire being, right? It's a call and response between that being and our environment. And the issue that we're having now is that our inner engineering here hasn't kept up, and nor should it have kept up with the environment, the way that it's changing, the food environment, the groceries, all the stuff that we have access to. So we're suffering. So now we have to utilize tools like I just showed you to plug the gaps so we can take back control. And we're not just walking around walking addicts for these companies to make their money off of. So that's my take, my give or take or whatever today. And if you have any further questions about this, guys, this is what I coach on. This is what I help people with: design a life they don't need a break from. And I believe the first step of that in terms of health when it comes to it is really getting your gut in control. And I say gut, it's your nutrition, it's your gut. It is the center literally of everything health wise. It is 80% of the equation. Let me turn it over to you guys.
Man, I think my giveaway from the day is going to be personal experiences. So, for those of you that have followed us for a while, you're familiar that mindset is very important to me and what I do, and also what I help people through coaching. It is so much easier to maintain a happy, healthy, clear, energetic state of mind without the overthinking, the worrying, etc., when you have a healthy gut. How do I know this? Because I have tried just about every type of diet there is, and I have transitioned into thinking of my food as fuel, and I've sacrificed the taste for long periods of time, and I've noticed that when I eat clean, I'm clear. Right now, I'm not eating clean. It's this phase I'm going through. I'm cool with it. It's all good. It's going to end here in a couple of days. And
unless you die. No, I'm joking. I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
God damn.
I'm going to go negative Nancy real quick.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Anyways, shaking that off.
Taking that out of there.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
But it makes a massive difference. And for anybody that's like a high achiever that's trying to show up, like one of the reasons why Khabib takes this so seriously, because he wants to have optimum energy like throughout his day. That this is the way to do it. So I don't know. Take this as a testimonial. Like this is incredibly important. It will affect everything. I literally know people that have changed their lives by just changing what they consume and why they do it, not just what. So that's my little 2 cents. But seriously, clean up what you eat, guys, if you want to have a better life experience. That's just my opinion.
That's huge. It's huge. I'll give a takeaway that I got. I already knew it, but just you reiterating it helps a bunch. It came in the last 10 minutes of us talking, but breakfast, literally in the word, break fast, right? Break fast. And where we've warped it is, like you said, yes, this is the most important meal of the day, but it's not meant to be some heavy, overly sugary sausage and biscuits or whatever, right? Whatever that meal is, those things that you enjoy eating that aren't doing the right things to break that fast, aren't putting the right things in because it's your first meal after sleeping or after your fast, supposedly. So I want that was a huge takeaway for me. And I want that to be something that resonates with people, because I got asked this question before. It's like, well, is everything that we've learned wrong about it? Like, should we not eat breakfast? Because I asked someone, or I told someone that I only eat fruit before noon, right? Water, fruit, similar to what you said, could be juice, those types of things before noon. And the gentleman I was talking to was like, well, have we been lied to our entire life? Like, is breakfast not the most important meal of the day? And you just clarified it again, that it is the most important meal, but what we choose to put in at that time probably isn't the right choices for our diet, for our body, for what will be good. So I want everybody to keep that in mind and do what's going to work for you, because really, to sum the whole thing up, why we talk about this type of stuff on The Good Life is because, one, your health is a huge component to you living the life that you want, right? You can have all the money in the world, you can have great relationships, but if your health is not good, you really don't have anything, right? So that's why this conversation is important. And then, as always, on The Good Life, we talk about awareness. How aware are you of what's happening in the food industry, or how it's impacting you, or how they're marketing to you, or what's happening in your body? Like, how aware are you of these things? So we we have these conversations, we give you this information so that you can then just become aware and then dive in and start to do your own research, start to do your own soul searching, reach out to someone like Kabi where he can guide you a bit down the path. But really, this is how you start to design your life. And that's why we want to have these conversations here on The Good Life. This one around food is incredibly important. I think we just have to be more aware of what's happening around us.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And guys, before Stu, you take us home here, I wanted to share just a little bit on that breakfast piece right there. I think it's critical for people to go ahead and dig into that research yourself. I just shared an article on there, and if we will pull that up, I think it's incredibly people to bring a little insight and highlight what we're talking about here. You know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day because you're breaking that fast. The first thing you put in, your body is going to uptake that, or um, whatever comes first is by definition very, very important. Right now, I want us to read that right there. Read that right there. I don't, Stu, can you read that title and that subtext there for us real quick, and then you guys can take that and run with it and dive in a little deeper for yourself. I said partly how this information came to be. This is one of those uncoverings in how we teach and educate. Oh, you're muted, brother.
Well, look at that. It works better now. Bacon, eggs, and public relations. How PR pioneer Edward L. Bernays changed America. If you think of bacon and eggs as a great breakfast, cigarettes as an equal opportunity vice, and beer as a beverage for the moderate drinker, you have Edward L. Bernays to thank.
Right there. Now you can go up, look at that article, read it for yourself, and dive a little bit deeper. But I guys, two things there. One, it was not based on real science, or two, it was based on phony science, because we now know that none of that is true. They got rid of cigarettes and planes for a reason, right? We now know that eating eggs and bacon in the morning may not be the best thing for you. Right? We now know this for a fact. That may not be the best thing for you, right? But how did this come about? It came by PR marketing, by a marketing guy that was paid to put this out there. All right. So I think it's important for us to double check our quote unquote science and who's putting this science out there, who is funding this science, who is pushing this stuff out there, and is it necessarily the thing that we should be listening to? And I think that's the kind of the issue I have with a lot of quote unquote dietitians and nutritionists now, is because this stuff is being hijacked on a very high level and may not be the best for us. Go ahead and take us home, Stu.
All right. Well, guys, that's it for us today. If you liked what you heard, subscribe, smash that like button. Tune in next Monday for another good one. And please, y'all, share this with anybody that would love or hate this episode, because all press is good press. Until next time, keep living the good life.
Later.
Welcome to the good life.